You're about to go on a big trip, but you don't know what travel book to read. Don't worry, you're in the right place.
Whether you're back home in need of inspiration, curious about a destination, or just have a really long flight ahead of you, this video will help you find the travel read for your travel need.
I'm Alex.
I'm Marco.
And you are watching Vagabrothers, your go-to guide for travel tips, vlogs, and inspiration here on YouTube. We travel a lot, we read a lot, and in this video, we're gonna be sharing with you the books that we feel every traveler should read.
There's links to all the books we mentioned in the info box, so if you find this video useful, give it a big thumbs up, share it with your travel buddies, subscribe to Vagabrothers, and turn on notifications if you've not already. And without any further ado, you're watching Vagabrothers, and these are the best travel books of all time.
Let's begin with the most classic travel book of all time, The Odyssey. Written in the 8th century BC, it is the sequel to the oldest work of Western literature, the Iliad, and it recounts the hero Odysseus' return from the Trojan War. What was supposed to be a short trip back to his homeland of Ithaca turns into an epic 10-year adventure. It is a classic, and it will make you think twice about complaining next time your flight's delayed 10 minutes, because it could be 10 years.
Next up, a book that inspired this channel, Vagabonding by Rolf Potts. This book showed us a new approach to travel, that it was something that did not have to be postponed until you might be too old to enjoy it, but something that could be done right now for a lot cheaper than you think. This book is both practical, inspirational, and highly recommended by us. Required reading for any vagabuddy. But the granddaddy of American vagabonds has to be Henry David Thoreau, who graduated from Harvard about 200 years ago and rejected society's expectations to go live in a cabin in the Massachusetts woods that he built with his own two hands. Hashtag cabin porn. Thoreau worked just a couple of weeks a year in order to buy the essentials that he needed in order to spend the rest of the year walking, writing, and thinking deeply on the meaning of life. His writings on frugality are required reading for anyone who wants to work less and live more.
Wild is the true story of Cheryl Strayed, who attempts to recover from the death of her mother and a divorce by walking 1,000 miles along the Pacific Crest Trail, from California's Mojave Desert to the border of Canada. Cheryl did it completely alone with no training and comes uncomfortably close to some very dangerous encounters along the way. Her story of perseverance became an instant bestseller and was turned into a feature film starring Reese Witherspoon in 2014. I haven't seen too many movies from Reese Witherspoon lately, so maybe she decided to pack it up and hike the PCT by herself. A nice contrast to Wild is A Walk in the Woods, Bill Bryson's hilarious account of his 2,000-mile backcountry journey from Maine to Georgia along the Appalachian Trail. Bryson is a great travel companion. He is a reluctant adventurer with a very wry sense of humor, but it's complemented with his descriptions of the history and ecology of the places he's passing, not to mention his unforgettable characterizations of the people that he meets along the way.
Few writers have achieved the legendary status of Jack Kerouac, the restless vagabond novelist who broke free from the confining shackles of 1950s America to found the Beat Generation, the counterculture predecessors to the hippie movement. My favorite of Kerouac's novels is The Dharma Bums, about his search for Zen enlightenment in California's Sierra Nevada mountains. But his most popular book is On the Road, a slightly fictionalized version of his travels across post-war America looking for weed, wine, women, and jazz. Kerouac's tales of hitchhiking, rough camping, and truth-seeking redefined what it means to be young, free, and full of soul. Marco Polo is perhaps the most famous traveler of all time. Marco Polo was born in Venice, Italy in 1254. The son of a merchant, he left Italy to travel across all of Asia overland, eventually becoming the guest of the Mongol Emperor of China, Kublai Khan, and returning to Europe 24 years later to tell the story to Europeans who knew virtually nothing of the outside world. Marco Polo's book sparked Europe's interest in China and India, and on the upside, gave me my nickname. This book is interesting because these days there's no shortage of Chinese tourists in Venice or Italians on the Great Wall of China. It was a historic encounter, but if you cannot get into the original text, check out the two-part series on Netflix. It's dramatized, it can be boring at times, but it puts this historic encounter of East and West in some colorful perspective.
Not long after Marco Polo comes a similar story from the other side of the Mediterranean. Ibn Battuta, a 21-year-old legal student from Morocco, goes on pilgrimage to Mecca and returns 24 years later. His travels take him all across North Africa, Egypt, the Middle East, the Caspian Sea, India, China, and Southeast Asia. The Travels of Ibn Battuta is a fascinating insight into the medieval Muslim world from a perspective that we very, very rarely hear in the West.
The Alchemist is like a fictionalized, inspirational version of the real-life story of Ibn Battuta. It tells the story of Santiago, a boy from southern Spain who one night dreams about the pyramids in Egypt and sets off on a journey across North Africa to see them. It is fictional, but the lessons about how life is a journey will resonate with anybody seeking a deeper purpose in life.
Pico Iyer burst into the ranks of travel writing history with his 1989 travelogue, Video Night in Kathmandu. Iyer was born in Britain to Indian parents and raised in California, and his third culture upbringing lends his travel essays incisive insight into foreign cultures. This book is a postmodern classic tale of his journeys from Bali to Burma and all the backpacker dives in between. To get a better taste of Iyer, check out his TED Talk, Where is Home? Really insightful. Another classic on backpacker culture in Asia is Holy Cow by Sarah McDonald, a journalist who follows her lover to New Delhi and goes through all of the stages of culture shock so you don't have to.
But the definitive travel book about India has to be the 1,000-page Shantaram, an epic story based on the true life of author Gregory David Roberts, a former criminal who escaped from maximum security prison in Australia to hide in the slums of Mumbai, eventually joining the Indian underground mafia and smuggling guns to rebels in Afghanistan. To learn more about this book and how it changed my life personally, go check out the review I did on my second channel, the Marko Book Club. There's a link in the info box. But arguably the most talented and prolific travel writer of the last century must be Paul Thoreau, whose most well-known book, The Great Railway Bazaar, is a travelogue about the most epic train journey of all time. From London to Tokyo via the Trans-Siberian, the Khyber Pass Local, and the Orient Express. Thoreau has a unique style that blends astute observations with witty dialogue and a misanthropic worldview that makes him the dour traveler that you hate to love.
Next up, we have Eat, Pray, Love, one woman's search for everything across Italy, India, and Indonesia. Eat, Pray, Love is the true story of how author Elizabeth Gilbert dealt with a midlife crisis, divorce, and depression by selling all of her possessions, quitting her job, and hitting the road for a year of solo travel. As the story progresses, Elizabeth finds herself by eating in Italy, studying with a guru in India, and eventually finding love and balance in Bali. You've already heard all the jokes about it, but now it's time for you to read the book.
But not all tales have a happy ending. Into the Wild is a true story of Chris McCandless, a young American who abandoned a life of privilege in order to hitchhike across the country in search of freedom, only to be discovered dead in the wilderness of Alaska a few years later. Written by adventure journalist John Crowker and adapted to a major motion picture by Sean Penn, this book is powerful, sad, and also not one to get your mom before your next solo trip. Trust me. Far more funny is Innocents Abroad, Mark Twain's hilarious dispatches from a steamship trip to Europe and the Holy Land shortly after the American Civil War. Twain lampoons his countrymen's provincialism in a way that many modern readers read as racist. But the book's ultimate conclusion is Twain's most famous quote, that travel is fatal to prejudice, bigotry, and narrow-mindedness. Innocents Abroad is Twain at his funniest and is a guaranteed laugh even 150 years later. Another funny read is Winter Dance, the story of what happens when a total rookie attempts the world's toughest endurance race, the Iditarod, a 1,150-mile winter dog sled race across the frozen tundras of Alaska. Our dad read this story to us when we were kids, and we are still joking about it today.
Definitely worth a read. The Poisonwood Bible by Barbara Kingsolver is the fictional story of a fervent Baptist missionary family from Georgia who moves to the Belgian Congo in the 1950s. 3 decades abroad challenge their faith, their unity, and their preconceptions about Africa and America's role abroad. Hopefully, it'll challenge yours too.
Also set in Africa, but very, very real, is The Angry Wind, my favorite travelogue from one of my favorite travel writers, Jeffrey Taylor. Jeff is a polyglot, an intellectual giant, and a talented journalist who has canoed down the Congo, rafted through Siberia, and in this book traveled across the Muslim nations of the Sahara by camel shortly after 9/11. Jeff blends current events, history, and adventure like none other. Read any of his books and you're guaranteed to learn something about our planet.
In the same vein is Four Corners by Kira Salak, the amazing story of the first woman to solo travel across the entire length of Papua New Guinea. She does it on foot and in canoe, and that alone is an incredible feat, but to be done by a 24-year-old solo female traveler makes it that much more amazing. Next up, we have Jupiter's Travels by Ted Simon. Jupiter's Travels is widely regarded as one of the best motorcycle travel books of all time. Jupiter's Travels tells the true story of Ted Simon's 4-year, 126,000-kilometer journey through 45 countries on a 1970s Triumph Tiger. He starts in Europe and makes his way all the way back via the hippie trail in Afghanistan and the wilds of Kenya. If you are in the mood for a 2-wheel travelogue, this is the book for you.
But we can't forget the Motorcycle Diaries by Ernesto Che Guevara, the collected journals of Che's infamous journey from Buenos Aires to Florida on a 1939 Norton motorcycle. The book traces the experiences that transformed him from a 23-year-old medical student in Argentina to an armed revolutionary in Cuba, willing to fight for the poor and die for a unified Latin America.
Barbarian Days is a new book by surfer, journalist, and war reporter William Finnegan. The book chronicles William Finnegan's experiences as a first-generation surf explorer. He grew up in the 1960s in Hawaii before following the endless summer to some of the most remote corners of this planet. The book chronicles his lifelong search for uncharted, unsurfed waves from Polynesia to Madagascar and everywhere in between. Let's switch it up a little bit and talk about Tracks, a book by Robin Davidson which documents her solo trip 1,700 miles across the outback of Australia with only the company of her 4 camels and her 1 dog. For those of you who don't know, Australia is also like chock-a-block full with poisonous snakes and scorpions and all sorts of creepy crawlies. Not to mention the desert there is one of the largest and most remote in the world, so that's quite a feat.
Also set in the Australian outback is Songlines by Bruce Chatwin. Songlines are the verbal maps of Aboriginal Australians that are passed down from generation to generation through song. The book is also a meditation on a theme that runs throughout Chatwin's work: the roots of restlessness and why some people prefer to travel. It's also about the conflict between settlers, in this case the British, and those who prefer to wander.
But to really dive into indigenous cultures, you have to read Wayfinders by Nat Geo Explorer-in-Residence Wade Davis. Davis is a traveling anthropologist with a powerful message. Aboriginal societies hold important ancient wisdom that is being ignored by Western society at our own peril. And that modern development is causing these cultures to disappear before our very eyes. This book is not a travelogue, it's a call to action that all of you travelers and vagabuddies out there should take to heart.
All right, those are our favorite books. What are yours? Tell us in the comment section and feel free to tweet us as well.
If you haven't already, give this video a big thumbs up, share it with your travel buddies, and make sure that you're subscribed with notifications enabled so you don't miss any of our videos.
Again, there are links to all these books we mentioned in the info box, and if you want more reading, if you like to read, check out the Marko Book Club on my second channel. I'd love to have you as a guest.
In the meantime, remember, stay curious, keep exploring, and we will see you on the road.
Peace, and happy reading.